I have a prediction to make. I think this army painter set, which I bought with my own money, is going to be better than Warhammer's. Sure, it doesn't have any Space Marines in it, but it does have a brush-on primer, and it wouldn't be hard for the paintbrush to be any worse than the one in the Warhammer starter set, would it? So I'm going to find a Space Marine or two, and I'm going to paint them with this set, while I talk you through what I like, and what else you might want to pick up. Have the Danes, that's army painter by the way, done Warhammer dirty, or will the British miniature giant come out on top? Let's find out. Let's find out! Let's find out! Let's find out! Stupid. So, the Fanatic starter paint set has a whopping 11 paints, including red, blue, green, yellow, black and white. So, theoretically, any colour should be possible to make. They also include a gold, a silver, a brown, a recess wash and a brush-on primer. Essentially, they've nailed the colour requirements. Someone has done their research. Oh, and these paints are in dropper bottles, with mixing balls in each bottle. And you also get a brush and a miniature included, as well as a painting guide. I'd say we're off to a reasonable start. I still had 3 Space Marines left from the Warhammer 40k introductory set, so let's grab one of those, since they're quick to build and we're all familiar with the scheme. We'll aim for Ultramarines again, and then we at least have some grounds to compare. First up, I'd like to see if I can really do the whole mixing thing with the paints, so I'm going to use my wet palette for this video, and it means I'm not mucking about with continually mixing the same colours over and over. And I'll see how we get on with the Army Painter starter brush for now, but if it sucks, I'll be switching to my affordable Kolinksy Sable from Hawk Miniatures, or maybe my new brush from Cryptic Cabin. Their size 2 is natural hair and a very affordable £8, and I've linked to it below along with the Hawk one. I'll talk more about these brushes in a forthcoming brushes video. Also, for those in the US, I had a good chat with the amazing people at Monument Hobbies when I was at Spiel in Essen, and they offer some great brushes which I've linked in the description below, along with a 5% discount if you use my code. If you're looking for cheaper and therefore possibly lower quality, you can get cheap Kolinsky Sable brushes in the US, which I think would probably be fine for beginners, from Blick or Reaper. Blick do a Scholastic range which are sub $3, which is a wild cost, so I'm a little bit suspicious, and a silver range for $8, while Reaper have a $5.99 brush, all of which are size 2 round and made of natural hair. If you're anywhere in the world and you have a good source for brushes, let me know or hit me up on Discord and we can help everybody find affordable brushes to start with that beats the hell out of any of the starter brushes that Warhammer are trying to fob us off with. Anyway, on to the painting. Primer was of course the first point of call, so that got slapped all over. No need to see that in any more detail than we have. To my surprise, this primer was grey. So first spanner in the works was, how was I going to do the black bits? I'd need to either use the strong tone wash just straight into them or give actual black a go. But before we even get there, I have a confession to make. Firstly, I took the backpack and the Marine's left arm off to get into the inner bits. Consider this your introduction to sub-assemblies. And also, I ended up switching to my Cryptic Cabin size 6 brush because I'm not a psychopath, so priming an entire model with a brush this size felt like trying to clean the Empire State Building with a toothbrush. Point is, the primer was put on, so everyone chill the fuck out. Anyway, I went for the painting black bits option, and I did the backs of the legs and any parts that would end up metallic. When you're painting, a good tip is to start with these fiddly bits, any parts closer to the model, and then work your way up. That way, if your brush touches any other parts, you're kind of covering those marks as you go and as you build those layers up. This is actually at odds with the advice to start with lighter colours. Obviously, black is harder to cover up than a lighter colour, so some people prefer to start light colours and then work their way to darker colours. Bottom line here is, don't take anything anybody says as gospel, because we're all different and what works for me might not work for you. Also, minor thing, but you'll see a minor light change throughout this because during the primer stage I realised that the lights in my room were making the camera do this weird wavy thing, and I decided to just remedy that by switching the main lights off, so this is now me sitting in the dark with just my hobby light and another light on the palette, proper goblin mode. I made a few mistakes here and there, just going over edges and where the brush is touching other bits. All good though, I can fix these when I do any other work, and it's always fine to go back and cover up parts when you mess them up. Okay, so great news, the blue here is ultramarine blue, and fun fact, it's the same colour as the Citadel blue we use to paint ultramarines. Who'd have thought? I set about the blue, and again, you don't have to be super careful here. I quickly realised that some of the parts I'd done black, like the vents and the face mask and on top of the helmet, weren't going to stay black here, so I'd have to get them with the strong tone later on, no biggie. As you watch me paint, you'll notice I always brace my painting hand against the model or my other hand holding the model. This is something that I do as second nature now, but you'll find it helps immensely with brush control. Anchoring yourself to the model in some way means that your brush is always moving relative to the model and not to the rest of the world. 4 things to note here. 1. If I was using the Warhammer starter brush, I'd have expected it to be hooked by this point, but amazingly, it's still working well. Good stuff. 2. I'm still doing 2 coats of blue here because although the paint is great, it still needs a couple of coats to get a good bit of coverage. 3. Don't sweat the hard to reach places. If you can't get to it with your brush, it's probably not visible, so wasting your energy on trying to get it painted is a fuck about. If you can take bits off, like here, I've taken the backpack off to do certain parts, great. If not, don't worry. And 4, don't be embarrassed to paint the codpiece. It needs paint like the rest of the body. There's probably a bit in the lore about Space Marines not getting aroused anyway. I wouldn't know, I've not read it, but someone will have and probably will be itching to tell me in the comments, and I thank you in advance for your service. Next up was the brown, which was a lighter colour, but I figured when it came to the washing part where we use strong tone, that would end up darkening this nicely, so all good. I slapped on the red in the eyes, the rosette of the purity seal and a couple of buttons. I wasn't too worried about the brightness of this red since I'll be washing most things back later. I figured I'd do the gold next. This gold is brighter than the more bronze coloured gold you get in the Warhammer kit. This also needed 2 coats to get a reasonable shine. You'll notice on the shoulder pad trim I didn't base coat in blue, and what happens is when the yellowy gold colour goes over the blue you get this sort of greenish effect. 2 coats helped cover that up, but basically your base coat will shine through a little bit if you're not getting good coverage, so for things like metallics, a black is always worth doing before your silver or gold. Silver was up next, and once again I took the backpack off just to make things a bit easier there. This meant handling the model, which is normally a bit of a no-no, but I was able to touch up a few bits when I put it back on. So there are a couple of things to do here now. A wash of strong tone, which will darken the recesses, and then some edge highlighting. I'll do the strong tone first because then we can tidy up any main colour parts after that has dried, and then we'll edge highlight to finish off. Strong tone is essentially a brown recess wash, but unlike Citadel's washes, Nuln Oil or Agrat's Earthshade for example, it's got a slightly more gel-like consistency. I personally find it harder to work with because you need to apply more than you would expect, but it should dry and it provides much the same effect. Whether you prefer this will probably be down to personal preference. For edge highlights, I think we'll mix blue and white. It's simple enough provided there's enough contrast between the edge and the original base colour blue. If you want to get super special, you can do a wider edge highlight in a slightly lighter blue, and then a thinner one in a much lighter blue, and listen, keep up that sort of thinking and stop touching yourself at night and you could be on Warhammer's heavy metal team in no time, trust me. Next stop, Golden Demon. Seriously though, practice makes slightly better. Anyway, I want you to imagine watching me paint incredible edge highlights all over this guy because I got super bored of doing it and I figured it didn't really matter anyway. The point is, let's get to the conclusion because we've not got all day. As you can see, the strong tone has helped me darken the recesses on the metallic parts and generally the finish on the paint is great. The Army Painter starter brush is leagues ahead of Citadel. It's still starting to hook a little bit, but boy, it is much nicer to use. I ended up actually not using my backup brushes in the end. The paints themselves are great. This is the Army Painter's new Warpaints Fanatic formula, and it's 100 times better than their old system. We didn't use the green and yellow really, but the paints we did use were solid, no obvious complaints at this point. Mixing wise, this set gives you pretty much all you need to get going, certainly when combined with the strong tone so that you can knock back any of those colours that are too bright, like for example the brown on the leather. I'd say for beginners, this is a really solid set. It'll help you realise whether or not you like dropper bottles, it'll give you a lovely set of paints to get going with, and although the brush didn't hook quite so soon, it had started by the time I was done, so there's no harm in picking up some better brushes. I still think it's the one thing that will help you enjoy the hobby much more. Anyway, thank you again for watching, folks. I will speak to you next time.